The Papalia crime family, Italian, Papa, modifier letter vertical line Li, modifier letter triangular colon A is a Ndrangheta organized crime family based in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, as well as Plati in southern Italy and Buccinasco in northern Italy. Antonio Papalia founded the Papalia family in Canada in the 1940s, and is one of 3 centralized mafia organizations in Hamilton, with the other 2 being the Musitano crime family and the Lupino crime family. The Papalias had strong connections with the Buffalo crime family of Buffalo, New York under long-reigning boss Johnny Papalia, who was often called Pops or the Enforcer. The Papalia clan also operate in Italy, and have alliances with the Barbaro Ndrina. The killings of Johnny and his lieutenant Carmen Barillaro in 1997, ordered by the Musitanos, had effectively wiped out the family's remaining leaders in Canada. One news report stated that the events of 1997 decapitated the Papalia family. One leader remained, Johnny's brother Frank, who died in 2014 and retired years before his death. History. Canada. Antonio Papalia was a bootlegger with early picciateria values, who immigrated to Canada from Delia Nuova, Calabria, Italy, in 1912, through New York City before moving on to Montreal, Quebec then New Brunswick in the coal mines, before finally settling on Railway Street in Hamilton, Ontario in 1917. Antonio became associated with Calabrian compatriot and notorious bootlegger Rocco Perry, and later Guelph mobster Tony Silvestro, working as a bootlegger who operated speakeasies. However, Papalia was suspected in playing a role in the murder of Perry's wife Bessie Starkman in 1930. It is also believed Antonio and his son Johnny Papalia, along with Stefano Magaddino of the Buffalo crime family, played a role in Perry's disappearance in 1944 after Perry left members of his mafia crew slotted, though both cases remain unsolved. Antonio's wife, Maria Rosa Italiano, also came from a mafia family, the Italiano clan, who also participated in Perry's gang. Maria Rosa initially married Antonio's younger brother Giuseppe Papalia Jr., giving birth to 2 sons in Italy. However, when Giuseppe died, she immigrated to Canada with her 2 sons in 1923 to marry Antonio. Johnny, the oldest brother to Frank, Rocco and Dominic Papalia, half-brothers Joseph and Angelo Papalia, brother-in-law Tony Pugliese, and associates, all worked in running his clubs and gambling operations. In 1940, Antonio Papalia was sent to internment at Camp Petawawa as part of the Italian-Canadian internment, as potentially dangerous enemy aliens with alleged fascist connections to Benito Mussolini's regime. During this internment he served some time with Perry, however Papalia was released 2 years before Perry. Papalia began to expand his enterprise with his son Johnny, who had some relationship with the Buffalo crime family. In the 1950s, loan sharking and extortion became important parts of the family's operation. 1955, with assistance from Silvestro, Papalia started opening charter gambling clubs in Hamilton and Toronto. Silvestro's son-in-law Danny Gasparini, Papalia's brothers Frank, Rocco and Dominic, half-brothers Joseph and Angelo, brother-in-law Tony Pugliese, and associates Red Labar, Freddie Gavari, Frank Mark Hilden and Jackie Weaver, all worked in running Papalia's clubs. After police raids, Papalia started working with James McDermott and Vincent Feely in several clubs throughout southern Ontario. By the late 1950s, Johnny Papalia was a made man in the Buffalo family, and boss of the Papalia family Ontario faction. By the early 1960s, he earned reputation from the French Connection, a smuggling operation that supplied over 80% of America's heroin market between the 1960s and 1970s, developing strong connections with the Buffalo family. By that time, he was considered to be the most organized crime figure in Ontario. Johnny was extradited to the United States for trial in 1962 for his role in the French Connection heroin smuggling ring, found guilty and sentenced to 10 years. In 1968, After serving less than half the sentence, he was released from a United States prison and sent back to Canada. While Johnny was in jail for an extortion conviction, police focused their attention on his brother Frank, the underboss of the family. In the summer of 1979, police pulled Frank over to ask questions about possible drinking and driving in hopes he would refuse a breathalyzer test, charge him, and impound his car to install wiretaps. Frank did refuse, fined $150, his license suspended for 3 months and his car taken to impound, where it was worked on by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. A court authorization also allowed for the implementation of wiretaps at the Papalia's businesses on Railway Street in Hamilton and consigliere Bruno Monaco's car while parked at Toronto Pearson International Airport. Through the wiretap planted in his car, Frank was heard procuring a woman, Shirley Rice, a previous mistress of Frank, for the Papalia's lawyer Clive Bino to have sex with. Bino was identified by the Ontario Provincial Police in April 1980 and brought in for questioning, where he confessed the sexual favors made available by the Papalias. Police also identified Rice a month later and also admitted to being paid by the Papalias for sexual favors, agreeing to cooperate with police by placing a tape recorder in her purse. With her gathered recordings, trial began in the summer of 1981, where Frank and Papalia Lieutenant Steve Coates pleaded guilty to obstructing justice, and in return, Frank's prostitution charge was dropped. Frank was fined $2,000 and Coates jailed for 4 months. Also in late 1979, the wiretaps allowed police to raid homes and businesses for files in a defrauding case. Frank, Rocco, Coates and Monaco were all arrested and charged with conspiracy to defraud the federal government of $50,000. Some sources indicate this value was over $200,000 after allegedly setting up a business to illegally cash in on grants. However, at the trial, the defense questioned the validity of the wiretap evidence. In late 1981 and early 1982, the trial was halted, and a second trial the following year saw them acquitted. In October 1990, 11 years after the police raids, the charges were withdrawn after the Crown Attorney disallowed the recorded wiretap evidence. In the 1990s, Papalia Lieutenant Inyo Pegleg Moore borrowed $7.2 million from Montreal mob boss Vito Rizzuto, and gave the bulk of the money to Papalia to open an upscale restaurant and nightclub in Toronto. After the Rizzuto crime family were not repaid, in September 1996, Moore was shot in the head 4 times at a Vaughan farm. Jacinto Arcuri was arrested and charged with Moore's murder, but was acquitted for lack of evidence. Johnny Papalia was shot dead on May 31, 1997, at the age of 73, in the parking lot outside his vending machine business, Galaxy Vending, on 20 Railway Street in Hamilton by hitman Kenneth Murdoch, claimed to be ordered by Angelo and Pat Musitano of the Musitano crime family, who owed $250,000 to Papalia. After the hit, Murdoch also killed Johnny's right-hand man Carmen Barillaro 2 months later. In November 1998, Murdoch pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder, was sentenced to life imprisonment, and named Pat and Angelo as the men who had ordered the murders. He was released on parole after serving 13 years. The Musitanos pleaded guilty to conspiracy of Barillaro's death, but not Papalia's, receiving a 10-year sentence in February 2000, but were released in October 2006. In March 2014, close Papalia family associate Daniel Gasparini died at the age of 93. After Johnny's death, the family's influence in Canada declined significantly. When Johnny left, all the power left with him. You may be enduring the glory with the boss, but when the boss goes, you disappear with him. According to Joe Fosha, a retired OPP detective staff sergeant, his brother Frank, who would have been the heir to the operation, decided not to retaliate. Instead, he retired and lived inconspicuously. He died of natural causes in April 2014, at the age of 83. Italy. Domenico Papalia, Johnny Papalia's first cousin, was the boss in the 'Ndrangheta in Calabria. He was involved in at least 5 kidnappings and convicted for the 1976 murder of rival mobster Antonio D'Agostino. In the 1970s, a branch of the Papalia family relocated their operations from Plati to Buccinasco near Milan. Another 2 first cousins of Johnny, Antonio and Rocco Papalia, used ransom money from kidnappings to buy large shipments of drugs for export. In 1993, authorities seized a house, factory, land, cars and businesses that belonged to Antonio and Rocco, worth over $40 million. The Papalias also operated with the Barbaro, Ndrina in the north-south operation, also having connections stretching to Australia. On July 10, 2008, in the Cerberus operation of the Guardia di Finanza, several people were arrested including Barbaro, Ndrina members and Antonio Papalia's son Pasquale, who received orders from the bosses in prison, Domenico, Rocco and Antonio Papalia, who were said to have controlled the construction sector in Buccinasco, Corsico and Poliano Milanese. On May 6, 2017, after being imprisoned since 1992, Rocco Papalia, nicknamed Njinu, was released. Notes. Further reading: Humphreys, Adrian. The Enforcer: Johnny Pops Papalia, A Life and Death in the Mafia. Toronto, Canada. HarperCollins, 1999. ISBN 0-00-200016-4. References